Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Mr. Nurmi, you may cross-examine the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Reed, good afternoon.
Hello.
I want to ask you some questions, begin this afternoon by talking about your relationship with Travis. If I heard you correctly, you said that you met him in 1998, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And how old were you back in 1998?
I was 20, I believe. Yes, 20.
Okay. And based on what you told us about Mr. Alexander being 1 year older than you, he would have been about 21, right?
About that.
Okay. And how did you meet him? What were I know you talked about meeting through mutual friends, that sort of thing. Was this a club? Was this a church activity? Could you just kind of describe that for us?
He was actually at my apartment, and my roommates were there, and I had just come home from work and was introduced to him. That was the first time I met him.
Okay, so it was through friends.
Mm-hmm.
Were you both members of the same church?
Yes.
Okay. And what church is that?
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay. And we heard a little bit of testimony a while back, kind of a little bit about how the organization, if you will, of that church works, about wards and things like that. You're familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Were you in the same ward as Mr. Alexander?
Yes, we were.
Okay. Did you go to the same church, physical church as Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Okay. And because you said, and let me back up a step, your membership in the church, if you will, were you kind of born into the church, or did you join the church later on in life? Could you explain that to us?
My parents joined the church when I was 1 year old.
Okay.
So yes, I grew up in the church.
Okay. And to your understanding, how did Mr. Alexander come to the church?
That his family were members of the church, but weren't actively attending church.
Okay. When you say his family, are you referring to his mother and father, or are you referring to someone else?
Well, as far as I know, the grandparents were definitely members of the church, and his parents as well, I believe.
Okay. Now, you said that you began dating in 2000?
Yes.
Okay. So, based on what you've told us, we have about approximately 2 years of just a friendship, correct?
Approximately.
Okay. How did that friendship turn into a dating relationship?
We just started hanging out and spending more time with each other on a regular basis and got to know each other better, and we liked each other and started dating.
Okay. And hanging out, was that a lot of church activities in this ward that you shared?
There were.
Okay. And dating per se, was that, you guys go out together? Would you go out in groups? How did that work?
Sometimes we would go out in groups, and sometimes we would go out just him and I.
For lack of a better way of saying it, was there a point in time where he became your boyfriend?
Yes.
And when would you say that point in time was?
I don't know if there was a pinpoint date in time.
I'm not asking an exact date, maybe month and year kind of thing.
I would say around the spring of 2000.
Okay. So after a few months of dating, 3-4 months of dating, whatever it is, you become boyfriend and girlfriend.
That's correct.
Okay. And based on what you've told us before, this preceded your mission in Costa Rica by, I guess it would be a couple months, right?
That's right.
Okay. And when you were boyfriend and girlfriend, if I'm stepping forward in time, you would have been 21, he would have been 22 or 23?
By the time that I left in 2000, I was 21.
Okay. What did being boyfriend and girlfriend, what did that mean to you and Travis at the time?
That we were dating exclusively.
Okay. Did it mean anything else?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay.
We were dating.
Well, did it come with a degree of expectations for the future?
Not right away, no.
Not right away? Okay. Which leads me to my next question. Eventually, it did, right?
Eventually, you start to think about the future when you're in a relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did that eventually, you start thinking about the future? When did that start to occur?
I started thinking about it more just before I left.
Okay. Left for your mission, just to be clear, right? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes,
Let's
sorry.
say yes for this gentleman here. So you leave for Costa Rica in June of 2000. Have you talked to Travis about these thoughts or expectations that you had?
We did talk about it.
Okay. And were you, before you left, was there a plan, so to speak, for when you returned in terms of your relationship?
There wasn't a set plan.
Okay. At that point in time, was the subject of marriage brought up between the two of you?
It was brought up, but I knew I would be leaving for a long period of time, and that the possibility of that happening, I just wasn't sure if that would really happen or not.
Okay. Prior to June of 2000, before you left for this mission, did he ever propose to you?
No.
Okay. Did he ever encourage you not to go on this mission?
No.
Okay. Did he ever express a preference that you stay with him and get married as opposed to go on this mission?
No.
Okay. And you said that you were gone about a year and a half.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And the only mode of communication that was available to you based on the dictates of your mission, I guess, if that's a fair way to put it, was that you could only write letters. Is
That's
that correct? Okay.
Excuse me, that's correct.
Okay. Do you need a second to get some water, or are you okay?
I will.
Okay. Okay?
Yes.
All right. You mentioned when you were speaking with Mr. Martinez that in this correspondence you had, and I should clarify before we do, this limitation about only writing letters that we discussed. Is that related to family? Does that apply to everyone, or are there different boundaries or rules, if I'm using the right words, in terms of your contact with others?
It applies to everyone. I was allowed to telephone my family twice a year, on Mother's Day and on Christmas.
Okay. So you weren't able to have any kind of phone contact or anything with Mr. Alexander during these 18 months?
Only letters.
Just the letters, okay. And when you were speaking with Mr. Martinez, you mentioned one of the letters, he wrote you a letter about something to the effect, I can't remember your exact words, but he was expressing a desire to see other people in this letter, right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember, this is probably a pretty significant moment, if you will, right? For you to receive that letter from him?
I don't know what you mean by significant.
Well, you left with the idea or maybe the expectation that you may marry this man, right?
I didn't really expect him to wait for me the entire time.
Okay. So this letter you received then, it was no big deal?
I wouldn't say that it wasn't a big deal.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. How long into your mission was it, if you can recall, that you received this letter?
It was well into my mission. I was to be returning home in just a few months.
I'm sorry, I didn't, you said due returning home, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you received this letter that he wanted to date someone else?
Yes.
Okay. Did this letter state specifically, I want to date so-and-so?
No, it didn't.
Okay. Did you ever have a chance to respond to that letter or communicate with him before you returned?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how many letters did you exchange after that, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. When you received that letter, you weren't upset, you weren't heartbroken?
I was sad.
Okay. Heartbroken?
I wouldn't say heartbroken at that time.
Were you in love with him at that time?
I was in love with him,
Okay.
but I was so busy in what I was doing there, and it was a good distraction, I guess you could say, to be there and to be doing what I was doing. I wasn't focused on our relationship. I was focused on the work that I was doing in Costa Rica.
Okay. So would it be fair of me to say then you were hurt, but you had other outlets to kind of help you deal with that
Yes.
hurt? Okay. And your work in Costa Rica was important to you, so that really helped you deal with these issues, right?
It was.
Okay. You talked about, well, let me ask you this. You said you came back in 2002, is that right?
In 2001, I returned.
Okay. And after you returned, how long was it, and I mean physically returned, and at this time you were living in Riverside, if I followed your testimony correctly?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And Travis was living in Riverside as well?
He was.
Okay. Can you recall for us how long it was before, when you physically got back to Riverside, how long it was before you saw Mr. Alexander?
Before I saw him for the
Yeah.
first time, it was about 2 weeks, I would say, a week or so, somewhere in there.
Okay. How come it took so long?
Because I figured he was moving on with his life, and we were just in different places, and I had a lot of family stuff going on at the time, and so I figured I would call him when I was ready.
Okay. Did you know him to be dating anyone in particular when you got back?
I didn't know.
Okay. Do you know a person, or are you familiar with a person by the name Linda Ballard?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And who was she to Travis?
She was the person who he was dating at that time.
Okay. Did you meet her?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Had you known her previous to your departure to Costa Rica?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What was your impressions of the seriousness, shall we say, of the relationship between Travis and Linda Ballard?
I didn't know the level of seriousness of their relationship.
Okay. When you began to see him again after these few weeks passed, did you see him as friends, or did you begin dating again?
I saw him as friends.
Okay. And based on what you told us this morning, it sounds like you began dating him back in 2002 again, right?
Yes.
Okay. What was your understanding of how Mr. Alexander became available again to date?
That they had broken up.
Okay. And do you know when they broke up?
I don't know when.
Okay. When they broke up, did Travis tell you about that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I knew that she had moved out of state.
Okay. Now, I believe you told us this morning that you began dating exclusive in 2002 to 2004. You were in an exclusive relationship with Mr. Alexander, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned the reason it ended is that you wanted to get married.
Yes.
May we approach?
Yes.
Ma'am, I think your mic may have cut out when you answered regarding breaking up with him because you wanted to get married. Your answer was yes to that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. As it relates to this desire of yours to get married, you would have been about 24 when you started dating him again in 2002, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I'm going to assume that when you broke up with him in 2004 because you wanted to get married, that this probably wasn't a shock to him, right? You'd mentioned it before?
We had talked about it before.
Okay. And were you ever engaged?
No.
Did he ever talk to you about getting married?
We talked about it.
Okay. And did he ever tell you that he wanted to marry you?
He didn't say it in that way. We talked about getting married and that I would be a good person, like, to marry, but that he just wasn't at that point yet.
Okay. And that's kind of what I was getting at. This wasn't something you just sprung on him in 2004, say, marry me or I'm out of here, right?
No, it's something we talked about.
Okay. And when you talked about it over the course of these 2 years, you must have felt like, in terms of hanging into the relationship, so to speak, that you still saw that as being a possibility for quite some time, right?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean.
Okay. Well, you're talking about how in 2002 and 2004, you're dating him. One of the goals in your life, probably independent of Travis, was to get married, right? Just have a family?
Yes.
Okay. So you told us earlier that you envisioned that maybe Travis would be that person for you, right?
That's right.
Okay. And you told us that about the time before you went on your mission or during your mission, right?
Yes.
You said that is something that you thought about.
Yeah, that I considered.
Okay. And then, moving from age 20 or 21 to 20, 23, 24, it probably becomes a little more serious, right? A little more urgent, a little more of a priority maybe in your life. Would that be fair to say?
Not really. It didn't seem that way to me. like, we had talked about it, but we didn't talk about it that much. We were in love with each other, and we liked each other, and we had fun together, and the time that we were together went by quickly. So I didn't feel the pressure that we had to get married.
Okay. But you must have felt some on your own for this to be a reason to break up with Travis, right?
Yeah, eventually I did feel that way, and that's why we broke up.
Okay. And that feeling probably just didn't pop up overnight, is my point, right? You didn't wake up one day and say, marry me or we're done?
It wasn't overnight, but it was quickly. I had just realized how much time had gone by that we had dated, and that it wasn't really progressing to that point, and I didn't see that it ever would.
Okay. And explain for us then, why didn't you see it going in that direction in 2004 when you broke up with him?
Because we had talked about it and talked about the fact that at that point he was not ready.
Okay. And at that point he wasn't ready, and that was enough for you to say, I'm not hanging out anymore, to wait for you to get ready, right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, when you broke up with him in 2004, we also talked about there was this period of time where he moved to Mesa and then you moved to Phoenix. Do you recall telling us about that this morning?
We did not break up in 2004.
Okay. When did you break up?
In
'Cause I thought you
2000, it was in 2005.
Okay, 2005. All right. So this move in 2004, you were still together.
Yes.
Okay. But I did get that correctly. You both you and Travis moved to Arizona in 2004. Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
But you were boyfriend and girlfriend when you both moved.
Yes.
Okay. When you broke up with Travis in 2005, did you maintain a relationship?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Was there a period of time where after you broke up, that you kind of separated from each other a little bit, or did you just break up and just kind of become friends the next day kind of thing, you know?
No, there was a period of time, there was a couple weeks in there where we didn't speak to each other and just had some time away from each other.
Okay. And just because I want to be clear too, when you say you broke up with him, did you kind of sit him down and said, this is it? You had a conversation, said, I want to get married and you're not going in this direction, it's time to move on?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that you talked about this morning was the idea that Mr. Alexander never yelled at you or raised his voice to you, right?
That's right.
Okay. And that he never hit you, right?
That's right.
Okay. And did you and Mr. Alexander have a sexual relationship?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And when did that sexual relationship begin?
Well, we had been dating for a long time, and we were in love, and so that is something that happened. That's what happens when people are in love. And I don't know exactly when it was, but it was well into our relationship after we had moved to Arizona.
Okay. Well into your relationship after you moved to Arizona. And this isn't a question to judge. This isn't what we're talking about here, okay? But you would agree with me that as it relates to this sexual relationship, and you've been a lifelong member of your church, that would have been inconsistent with the dictates or the teachings of your church. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And because of that inconsistency was the fact that you were having this relationship, was that something you kept between the two of you?
That was our private business. We didn't tell people about it.
Right. I understand. And again, I'm not here to judge, I'm just asking. In terms of ramifications within your church, did you or Mr. Alexander face any ramifications in your church related to this activity?
No, people are just human. People within the church are human. And we make mistakes and we do things. And then we can go to the bishop, which we did.
Okay.
And we talked to him about our relationship.
Okay. And you said you went to the bishop. When did you do that?
I believe it was in 2005.
Okay. And was this, I would assume then, that this was in the Phoenix, you wouldn't have been in the same ward when you moved to Arizona, right? You living in Phoenix and he living in Mesa?
Yeah, we were not in the same ward. At that time, I was living in Mesa, like downtown Mesa area.
Okay. So you had the same bishop at that time?
We did not,
Okay.
no.
So did you each go to the bishop individually or separately?
Individually.
Okay. And my question earlier was as it relates to sanctions within the church or punishment within the church. Did you ever lose your temple recommend?
Yes.
Okay. To your knowledge, did Mr. Alexander lose his temple recommend?
Yes.
Okay. And this sexual relationship, you mentioned people make mistakes, and that's certainly understandable. Was this a one-time mistake, or was this a mistake that happened several times?
Lack of foundation, are we talking about vaginal intercourse, oral intercourse, what are we talking about?
Sustained.
Okay, let's step back then. You're familiar with what I believe is termed the vow of chastity within your church, is that correct?
The law of chastity.
Yes, okay, law of chastity, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think I said vow. But do you take some sort of vow of chastity or something like that when you're in the church?
It's not a vow,
Okay,
but it's just rules that we live by. But sometimes, like I said, we're human, we mess up, and sometimes people break rules, and that's what happened in this situation.
okay. And I understand all that. I get that. And I understand that this is a sensitive topic, Ms. Reed. I get that as well.
Objection, no question.
Sustained.
This law of chastity would forbid oral sex, correct?
Yes.
It would prohibit anal intercourse, correct?
Yes.
And it would prohibit penile vaginal intercourse, correct?
Yes, any type of sexual contact.
Okay. In terms of breaking this law of chastity, was this a one-time thing or something that happened on several occasions?
Objection, lack of foundation, which kind of breakage?
Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Sure. We talked about the law of chastity and the things that it forbids.
Yes.
Okay. What I was asking you is if you and Mr. Alexander broke that law one time or more than one time?
More than one time.
Several times?
Several times.
Okay. And over how long a course of time Have you read that?
Yes.
If I may approach again, Your Honor. Thank you, Ms. Reed. Ms. Reed, have you read this email prior to today?
No, I have not.
Okay. There is comment from Mr. Alexander that he did something unpardonable to you. Do you know what he's referring to?
Just that we were together for so long and that he did not marry me.
Okay. And that's unpardonable?
He says in there that that he was, sorry, I just forgot, I lost my train of thought. But he
Okay.
says that he just felt bad for dating me for so long, and that this was a time in my life when I should be getting married, and that he thought that now I was beyond that point of getting married. And so that's what he felt bad for.
During the course of your relationship as well, did he ever have you write letters to male friends of yours telling them that you couldn't be friends anymore?
No.
You never did that? Showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 395.001. Did he ever ask you to wear an outfit like that?
No.
You said that you engaged in text messaging with him in 2005, a little bit, right? And even in the future, even up to 2008, right?
Yes.
Referring to you what has been marked as Exhibit 391. Did he ever use phrases with you that you're the ultimate slut in bed?
No.
And did he talk to you about blowing enormous loads every time?
No.
Did he ever ejaculate on your face?
No.
Did he ever call you a whore,
No.
a slut,
No.
a three-hole wonder?
No.
Did he ever tell you how he wanted to tie you to a tree and, quote, put it in your ass?
No.
Must have had a different relationship that he did with Miss Arias, correct?
Object, lack of foundation.
Sustained.
Did he ever tell you that the way you moan, it's like a 12-year-old girl having her first orgasm?
No.
Did he ever tell you about wanting to cork the pot of a little girl?
No.
Let's talk about a little more about Mr. Alexander. This man you were together with for so many years. What did you know of his family background? Meaning his mother and father, specifically.
I knew of them.
Okay.
I knew about his upbringing.
Well, when you say you knew about his upbringing, what did you know?
I knew that it was rough, that his parents were drug addicts.
Okay. When you say drug addicts, do you know what drugs they were addicted to?
I don't know.
Okay. What else did you know about them?
I knew some of Travis's memories that he had told me of them.
What do you mean what do you mean his memories of them?
He told me that he had not only the bad memories, but he also had good memories of his mother throwing birthday parties for him and doing nice things for him.
Okay. And what were some of the bad memories?
Mostly just stories of neglect and wanting to be out of that house.
Okay. Neglect as in not having food to eat, not getting attention, that sort of thing? Is that what you mean when you say
Poor
neglect?
living conditions.
Okay, poor living conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Did he describe how poor those living conditions were?
He did.
Okay. Was this sort of rat-infested cockroaches, things that we could see in his book or his introduction to his book?
Those types of things, yes.
Okay. And what about his father? What did you know of his father?
Again, just things that he would tell me about his father, different memories that he had of him. And I also had seen a video that Travis showed me, because by the time I met Travis, his father had passed away.
Okay.
And he showed me a video of him, and I could just see how much Travis loved his father and how proud of him he was that he had started to clean up his life towards the end of his father's life.
Okay. Clean up his life, meaning we just talked about his father was a drug addict as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You spoke about neglect from we were talking a moment ago about his mother. Was his father also neglectful too, to your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. To your understanding, was his father physically abusive with Travis?
No.
To your understanding, was Travis's mother physically abusive with him?
No.
Okay. Travis's mother, you mentioned his father had passed away. Had she passed away as well before you met?
I met her.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that you had your ultimate goal. The reason you moved back in 2008, that's when you moved back to Riverside?
Yes.
Right, okay. And in terms of 2008, when you moved back, you said, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, you said something to the effect that you wanted to pursue your other goals.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And the other goals you were talking about was teaching?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you had is it a bachelor's degree in liberal arts?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Is that something you earned in Arizona or something you earned in California?
In California.
Okay. And in terms of the goal of yours, this goal that you had, did you ever express that to Travis?
Yes.
Did he ever tell you the goal of being a teacher was stupid?
No, he was very supportive.
Okay. Did he ever try to downgrade you, try to tell you you should never do that?
No, he had seen me in different teaching situations at church, and he had also known how passionate I was about it, and so that's why he was supportive of it.
Okay. He was supportive of you being a teacher, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with Lisa Andrews?
Yes, I know her.
Okay. Are you familiar with the fact that he dated her?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the fact that it was real serious?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the fact that it was as serious as maybe it might go to marriage?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of the fact that he told her how stupid it would be for her to be a teacher?
No.
Different relationship, I guess. Thank you.
Redirect.
I'd ask that the last comment be stricken.
Sustained.
Ma'am, one of the things that you were asked about was this issue about this sexual activities that you may or may not have had with Mr. Alexander. Was your relationship based on sex mostly?
No, it was not.
And when you went to the bishop, did you lie to him about the activities that you had engaged in?
Nope, I told him everything.
Did you minimize, for example, say, you know, in your mind we're having sexual intercourse, but I only told him that I was having oral sex. Did you do that?
No.
Well, if you did that, would there be any reason to go to them if you weren't going to be truthful about it?
No.
And with regard to these issues about whether or not he called you names or that sort of thing, do you know if he did use that language with regard to somebody else? Do you know what the other person's participation may have been?
No, I don't.
Do you know anything about his sexual activities and whether or not the defendant was participating in these sexual activities with him?
I don't know.
With regard to your sexual activities, was it something that you and he would go about talking to people about?
No.
How about any sexual aspects that he had with the defendant? Did he discuss those with you?
No.
This issue about whether or not you were going to marry and why you broke up, he told you he wasn't ready to marry you is what you told us, right?
Yes.
So was it a situation that he lied to you?
No, he was very honest about it.
And when you told him, we're done with this, and you'd broken up, was it a situation that he kept coming back and asking you for sex?
No.
Did you guys continue to have sex after you broke up?
No.
So is it something that you obviously could control then, right?
Yes.
And was it a situation after you broke up with him that he was such a sexual monster that he kept coming over and grabbing at you and pawing at you to have sex with him? Did that happen?
No, he was always a gentleman. He never pressured me.
Sustained.
Was he a gentleman after this happened?
Yes, he was.
And if you told, did he even ask to have sex with you after you broke up with him?
He did not.
One of the things that you were asked about was this issue about these items that may have been sent, for example, over the mail. With regard to this picture that you were shown of a woman in some sort of skimpy outfit, do you remember being shown that?
Yes.
Do you know what the circumstances were of that?
I don't know.
Do you have any possible way of knowing the circumstances about that?
I don't.
How about what the relationship was, whether or not somebody likes to ejaculate on somebody's face? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know.
Do you know whether or not the defendant liked that?
I don't know.
Do you know whether or not she sent him text messages asking him to do that? Do you know any of that?
I don't.
So, do you know anything about their sex life?
I don't know anything about their sex life.
You do know about Mr. Alexander, don't you?
I do.
And at any time throughout this relationship, did he ever become verbally abusive to you?
No.
At any time, did he ever become physically abusive?
No.
At any time, when you didn't want to do something, did he start trying to push you in the direction that you didn't want to, you didn't want to go?
He did not.
At all times, was he respectful to you?
He was.
I don't have any other questions.
Looks like we have a juror question. Are there any other juror questions for this witness? Counsel, please approach. A juror has a question for you. Is the law of chastity widely known in your church, or is it something that is kept a secret?
It is widely known.
Is the law of chastity a topic of discussion in your 3-hour church days or any other event?
Yes, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
If so, to what degree?
They'll usually teach lessons on it in the different classes that we have during church. So every once in a while, there'll be a lesson specifically on the law of chastity.
Any other questions from the jury for this witness? Follow up, Mr. Martinez.
Any confusion as to the law of chastity, as to what it forbids and what it allows?
No,
Objection calls for speculation.
With regard to your knowledge of the law of chastity and what you have learned, any indication that there's any misunderstanding as to what it allows and it doesn't allow?
no, it's clear.
And it's clear what? What does it
It's
say?
clear that it allows, well, it does not allow any sexual contact between people who are not married.
And is there any wiggle room, so to speak? I know we're talking about a sexual issue here. Any wiggle room to believe that, well, maybe we can do this, but maybe we can't do that, as long as we interpret it differently?
Objection again calls for speculation, each
Overruled.
person's belief.
Overruled. Me answer.
No, those things may happen, but if they do happen, it is in violation of the law of chastity, and that's clear.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Mr. Nerman?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, in terms of the law of chastity, would someone taking a picture of their penis and sending it to someone else, would that be in violation of the law of chastity?
I don't know specifically, in my opinion, yes.
Okay. What about taking close-up pictures of a woman's genitalia? Would that be a violation of the law of chastity?
Yes.
Okay. How about someone who took close-up pictures of a woman's anus? Would that be a violation of the law of chastity?
Yes, it would.
Thank you.
You may step down. The state may call its next witness.
State calls Michael Melendez.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Your name, sir?
Michael Melendez,
What do you work for?
Mesa Police Department.
And previously, did you testify in this case?
Yes, I did.
Back in June of 2008, what were your duties with the Mesa Police Department?
I was in the computer forensics unit.
Did you have occasion to assist in the homicide investigation of Travis Alexander?
Yes, I did.
And specifically, as part of that investigation, did you have occasion to look at his laptop computer?
Yes, I did.
And by look at his laptop computer, what is it that you did?
I forensically examined his hard drive in the laptop computer.
You said that you examined his hard drive. When you say you examined the hard drive, what is the hard drive?
In the laptop is the drive, is the area that all the data is kept on the computer.
And why would you look at the hard drive?
That's where all the data is.
And that's some place that you could find whatever was going on in the computer, correct?
Yes.
And in examining the hard drive, were you able to access, or was there any indication that you were not able to access everything that was in the hard drive?
I was able to look at everything and access everything, yes.
And accessing this hard drive, were you able to see whether or not in this hard drive there were photographs of women from the waist up.
Yes.
And were you able to see whether or not there was tons of pictures of women's breasts on this hard drive?
I will be able to see that, yes.
And were you able to see it?
I did not find any, no.
And with regard to photographs, aside from tons, just were there any photographs of women from the waist up showing their breasts? Did you even see any of that?
No, I did not.
Any images whatsoever of that in that laptop?
No.
What else did you do with regard to this? What examination did you conduct on this hard drive?
Initially, I searched for all types of file images, and we do that by searching for file headers, which is the beginning part of the file itself. This way, if there's a file embedded in another file, I'll be able to find that.
When you say file embedded in another file, what does that mean?
For example, if someone takes a photo or an image and puts it in a Word document, I will be able to find that.
All right, and with regard to that examination, did that reveal any images of women's breasts?
No, it did not.
To be clear, did it show the lower part either of a
No.
woman? Okay, what else did you do?
After that, I went through all the internet history, the registry of the computer itself.
The internet history, what did you find in looking at the internet history?
Just basic usage of going on the internet for different types of things, social media sites.
Did you find any access to any of the so-called adult sites?
No, I did not.
What else did you do?
I looked at the registry to see what type of software was added to the computer.
When you say that you looked at the registry to see what software was added, what is it that you're looking for, or what is it that you're doing there?
I'm just getting a feel for what type of software is added to. It gives you an idea of what this user is doing on the computer.
So if a person adds software, what would that tell you, if anything?
Well, if they have software, depending if it's a case involving, let's say, check fraud, and they have software that allows you to create checks, then it'll tell me that they had the ability to do that.
Was there any software that was added to this laptop?
Just basic software,
Such as what?
Windows, Office, things like that.
Anything related, for example, to going to adult sites or anything like that?
Well, in that sense, I will be looking for something that will be peer-to-peer, some software that will allow you to share files from one user to another.
And did you find that?
I did not.
And what else did you do in terms of searching this computer?
I searched every single file that I could open and opened it and see what was inside of it.
And did you see any, throughout this whole searching from beginning to end, did you see any images of children in that computer?
No.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to clarify a bit. When Mr. Martinez was questioning you, he was talking about a laptop.
Yes.
Okay. But it's our understanding from your testimony prior that there was more than one, computer seized, right?
Yes.
Okay. And there was CDs and flash drives and what we would call media, right?
Yes.
Okay. And those also store information on them?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm asking that because I wanted to back up when we're talking about this laptop. This laptop was the one that was recovered in the office or den area, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And as it relates to that, this was a computer, this laptop was registered to, or the owner was a Deanna Reed, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And recalling from your testimony earlier, this particular computer, one of the things you told us a while back is that you looked at it for recent activity, I believe is the verbiage you used back then. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do recall that.
And one of the things you told us last time, if I remember correctly, is that around 4:30 in the morning, maybe a little after, this computer was being used to watch videos on YouTube. Is that correct?
I don't recall saying that, no.
Okay. Do you recall seeing that activity?
I recall seeing activity, yes. I don't recall saying that here, no.
You don't recall specifically saying what it was, but you recall saying it was used at 4:30 in the morning?
I don't recall saying that,
On June
no.
4th, okay. Then I'll need a minute. Well, I should ask you this, Detective. Do you have a copy of your report or analysis with you today?
No, I do not.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the afternoon recess. Please be back in the designated area at 10 minutes after 3. Please remember the admonition, you are excused.
Please stand for the jury.
Please be seated. We are at recess. You're free to step down.